So you've already seen us take one bulkhead out.
And in this video, you're going to see us put one back in.
So if you want to see how we got from this
to this, keep watching. Very quickly, let's just add why we took one bulkhead out to put another one back in. Firstly, the original bulkhead was ugly.
And secondly, we wanted to make the best use of our space and to have an emergency hack.
Let's get into the video.
So yeah, this is obviously the area where the bulkhead is going to be, which you're going to make out of a timber frame and then ply. The biggest pain I feel is going to be this bit down here, because obviously you've got the handles and stuff of the door, which you can't get in the way of. Trying to work out how far back you can come from the seats, because you want to do it like as little as possible, because you want to waste as little possible space in the van. Initial plan is I'm probably going to put a shelf in up here and just do that so it's done. Put a strip of timber along here and then a couple of blocks inside that I can just screw down. But I think I just need to crack on and play around and see what works. So that top piece is now in. Obviously it's a little bit curved over there, so it was a bit tricky getting some of the screws through. I used the self-drilling screws to get through. There's sort of some double skinned metal there, which was a bit tricky. So that's that, the top end done. Just figuring out what I'm going to do down here. So I think what I've planned to, I've got quite a hefty bit of wood down here, which I'm going to use to bring me out from this little indentation. And then I'll attach, I have a piece of wood here, just screw that in once I've sort of jigsawed out the edges, because it's a bit tapered down there. And then that will hopefully bring the wood out far enough that then I can start building up between the top and the bottom.
So with the base in, it was time to start work on the verticals. This was just a case of measuring and cutting the wood to size. Once the verticals were cut to size, we went ahead and drilled pocket holes for a flush installation.
It's kind of how far we got yesterday, so yeah, not very far. Ignore that bit of ply, it's just kind of leaning there at the moment. Yeah, the plan is so we need some horizontals in there to sort of frame the little gap where you're going to get through, and then we need the bits on the side, which I think I said before, is going to be a pain because basically we've got to avoid all the bits on the door, but I do really want to attach to those sides because they're quite structural to the van, so there'll be good bits to join to, but I also need to bring it out. One other thing, I just need to take these little notches in that I've put at the top slightly, because this is going to protrude past the window otherwise. We've got a little bit space for putting the ply on the back, so that should be fine. There was a lot of trial and error trying to frame the escape hatch. Firstly, I had to play around finding a good line across the back of the seats, i.e. making sure there wasn't too much of the seat on show, but also leaving enough room for either me or Shell to fit through. Secondly, and the biggest battle, was trying to make things straight and square whilst working on a wonky driveway. I'd really recommend working on a flat level surface if you can. Just going to talk you through what I've done and what I plan to do for the shelf above the bulkhead. So I got a bit of cardboard to use as a template, which is basically just an unfolded box. and by pure luck it was pretty much the right size once I unfolded it. Just needed to add on like another 1.5 inches I think to get the right length, but I didn't need to be too precious about it. I kind of want to keep it square. I wasn't going for any angles in there because you're not going to see it. As long as it fills the space, that's the main thing. So I'm just going to show you up the top and let you know what my plans are from there. So this is how it currently looks up here. Over here we've got, underneath the insulation, we've got like some double skinned metal which goes from back to front. So that's the fall down one side, and we've got the same over the other side. So they're two good places to attach to, although they're quite thin. So I've got to be a bit careful if I'm using screws. I'm not going through that and through the inside of the cab because that's not going to look too pretty. And then you've got this chunky support member here, which I don't really know what it does other than the handle that's inside, that screws into there, so it could solely be for that or just to give this a bit of structure. But what the plan is, I'm going to cut a couple of bits of wood because obviously it slopes off, so I want to kind of level it out. So I want it to be higher at that end, so I'm just going to use some ply that I've got left over, and then the board will go across from the sides, and it's going to be cut in the middle, so it'll meet in the middle. So this is what I've done. I've got my strip kind of little curved edge for where it goes into the corners, and I've just sandwiched another piece together so that when it goes across, that end is lifted up and it will level out for the board to sit on top. So there's two of those, one for each corner, and then this is my shelf. So just a simple little 4mm ply, and that's just cut in half, so one go to one side, one go to the other. So I'm just going to pop that in. This is how it currently looks, with a little shelf in there, in two pieces, just so we can get it in easier. I may just need to add a strip to the end, just so that when it's fully in, nothing disappears off down into the abyss, never to be seen again. In true Michelle form, she's just come out and told me we need to carpet the inside of the shelf cupboard at the top. So this is the first time Michelle's been back in the van since 2024.
Shut up. So this is a large scrap of 4-way stretch carpet in an oatmeal colour. We didn't want to use a full new roll because it's hardly going to be seen. So it was a bit of a patchwork. And basically all I'm doing is just using spray glue and smoothing it down. I've kind of tucked it into the ceiling, just the edge of the wood there. That's the main area I think what you will actually see. There will be a full carpeting video coming very soon.
So here's my little bits of board stuck down. I've Sikaflex those in because trying to get a screw in there is nigh on impossible. I used to have like a right angled adapter for the drill, but it just doesn't seem to have like the torque on it to go through the metal, and there's just no room. And I've just put like a couple of little bits of wood in here so they kind of sit proud of the metal for the boards to sit on. And then same again over that side. They've been drying overnight and they seem nice and secure.
Here is a finished look inside the shelf. It's not the neatest, but obviously it's hardly going to be seen, just handy for storage.
Time for an update on the bulkhead. This is currently how it looks, and I think is, you know, what it's going to look like basically. Obviously it's going to be panelled. I think we're going to insulate the gaps, so it'll be panelled on both sides. Time for a bit of a plywood jigsaw. So the back is going to be plied with 3.64mm ply. So I'm not going to get a full sheet in there without dismantling it all. And even then it'll be a pain to fix it on anyway. So I'm going to just see what we've got, and if we've got enough pieces sort of laying around to use up those bits that aren't going to get used anywhere else, and kind of jigsaw the back of it, because it's not too important how it looks. It's going to get carpeted anyway. We just need something to bridge the gap, and then fill in with some insulation before finishing off the neater side in here. waiting on Shell to tag her in so she can do the carpeting on the cab side. In the meantime, I think I'm just going to crack on with doing this side, or attempting to do this side, in as few pieces as possible. Using a combination of a scrap piece of ply, I scribed the curved wall of the van for the bottom of the template and then used cardboard for the top. I then transferred this onto the actual sheets we were going to use to line the bulkhead. Not my finest camera angle, but just attaching the carpeted ply using panel pins. That's the inside of the cab done for now. I still need a little piece to going down that edge where you can see the wires dangling. That is definitely not a priority at the moment. And sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Also, this bit here, I need a strip to go up there, which will need to be carpeted. But neither of those things prevent us from carrying on with stuff in the back, so they are on the back burner.
So we are nearly there, and now we are piecing all of the puzzle pieces together. This piece in particular was a little bit tricky because we needed to account for the hatch and also for the shelf opening.
Got to cut this angle here so that the ply that goes on the front will sit flush, hopefully, across this angle. I'm going to use multi-tool for this because that is the only thing I trust myself with, and hopefully it won't go horribly wrong. So after finishing off this corner here, the next step was to insulate, which we used 25mm Kingspan left over from the walls.
And if you do want to see how we done that, you can watch this video, which shows how we've done that in the past.
After that, we ply lined it with 6mm ply, which we fixed in place with panel pins, which we have here. Nice and simple. And then we followed on by filling the gaps with wood filler, sanding, and now it's ready for priming and painting. We also installed a very temporary light switch.
Here's Warren attempting getting through the hole because he's gonna collapse the wall. Are you okay?
I think I just lost a testicle.
And here is the finished bulkhead. Drop us a comment below if you have converted your bulkhead or are planning to in the future.